Okay, well, thank you for at least this short introduction. So, the subject of earth energies and crystal skulls, you may understand, is a pretty extensive subject. So we can go in many different directions. And what we have decided to do is basically use this wonderful place as a basis. And we use in the afternoon other very special place to demonstrate and let you experience some of the energies that cannot so easily be experienced here. So what I would like to do in this introduction is giving you a little bit of what you can call a general idea of the many different types of earth energies and what actually our role as human beings is in relation to those energies. Because we have forgotten, most of us have forgotten about those energies, and we have to learn from either the indigenous people who have a lot forgotten as well, or we have to go back even farther in time where the places that people have selected in the past can help us to understand why people were choosing things, why there are connections between different places, and slowly then something like a model is beginning to unfold. And what I would like to share with you is a model that Jeanne and I over time have more or less developed. And I may be a little bit more a researcher than she is, but without, and that's already pretty obvious, her input, I would never have come to the model that I will go and share with you. It's very easy to lose into details because I can take one subject and we can spend a day or 2 days on one subject. And what we are going to do is we walk actually through a number of subjects today, but don't get worried about I don't understand all the knowledge, because it's just getting the general idea about earth energies and then going to the experience. And why is that so important? Because you can only understand when you have knowledge and experience. If you do solely the knowledge, it's empty. You know, it's one thing that you've picked up, it's not yours. You cannot make it yours unless you start experiencing it. Once you have experienced it, then you can say, now it's mine, because it's uniquely what you have experienced from that particular energy, and whatever you then do with it is exactly what you need to do with it. Because there are no rules. You will see that what I will do is avoiding you to say, when we go there, you have to experience this. Because by that moment, you know, something will be taken away from you. Meaning you cannot be yourself anymore, because you will then have the feeling, oh, now I have to fit into that particular idea. And that's exactly what it's not meant to. So even although people have selected certain places for certain reasons, even the shamans of the old will never tell the people, oh, now we're doing a ceremony, you have to experience this, because every time that you do a ceremony or a meditation at one particular place, you will have every time a slightly or sometimes even dramatically different experience. So the whole way we will approach it is not by dictating, but more give you a general overview and then from there go into the experience. And the earth energies, you know, basically you can separate them in so many different groups, but the preference that I have, and I will write it down, is to say there is one very important group that I call the natural energies of the earth. What I mean with those energies is that are the energies that the earth have independent of any activity or any other, you can say, beingness being there. It's the same way as we have our own energy system that we call the meridians and the chakras. It's exactly in the same way the earth has energy systems, which also consist of lines like in our body and consist out of what you can call acupuncture points, or we call them here vortexes. Or in the human body we call them chakras, and we call them in the earth vortexes. I will come back to that definition in a minute, but let's first look at the groups. The second one is the group that the earth is supporting, because the earth allows many different beings to exist. Well, look around us, there are many different species of plants, of animals, of buggies, sometimes very bothersome buggies, but they're all around here, right? And so you can say they support us by creating and allowing to create energy fields that are called morphogenetic fields. Morphogenetic. It's a very, very important group. So what we call the consciousness field of, and we go in a little bit more detail later, the consciousness field of human beings is actually a morphogenetic field. It's the sum of all the experiences that we have that then co-determines how every other human being will function. And that's why we are so challenged, you know, by the collective field, as we call it. And we are actually trying to free ourselves to be using the field when it's for our personal, let's say, benefit, instead of let that field determining who we are. You know, we have to find our own uniqueness and not what the collective uniqueness is, right? And then the third group is a group that you can say is, and I call it, for the sake of simplicity, consciousness, and I show that is induced. And this is, they are the ones that I refer to when we talk about what the ancient people have done. You know, so all the different activities of ancient people that, you know, we sometimes can see represented by ruins all over the world, or the standing stones, or the stone circles, or the dolmens, or whatever it is, are all markers, you can say, from ancient people who for whatever reason selected those places. And we can learn from that, we can study based on what we see here and what we see here, you know, and try to understand why they selected these places and how they were using it, so that we begin to understand again the importance in our lifetimes. So we are not, let's say, inventing anything, we are rediscovering actually what it is that other people have already done, because in a sense you can only create something truly new when you've mastered what is. You know, otherwise it will be a repetition of what already was. And we are very good in repeating, because that's the essence of the mind. The mind is only that what we have experienced, and we are reorganizing that, thinking, no, we have invented something new. No, we have just reorganized the old. And we are invited to go beyond that, so that we become true creators and not reactors. And you may know that creation and reaction has the same letters, but they're in a different order, right? It's the same fundamental energy used in a different way. These are the three major groups. And each of those groups would almost allow us a week to explore. So what we are going to do in the morning is mainly this and a little bit of that. We will mention a few things about this because it's so important. And when we go into the cave, we will combine all three. That's why it's so nice to go to the cave, because there is the combination of all three. Yeah? So the morning will be mainly this, so that we have some fundamental connection, we have made some connection that we then can use for our exploration in the afternoon. But if you're not going in the afternoon, believe me, you will really benefit from what's going on here this morning. You know, you will be really feeling that intensity of the different energies. And there is, before I will go into details, there's one thing that I like to share first, because Connie brought up, I don't feel those things so easily. And I know that many people have that little bit, well, what if I cannot feel it? You know, and what does that mean, that I feel or do not feel? We have a pretty funny organ. And I like to share that first before we go into more details, because that is the key. That organ is up in here, the brain. The brain is a really interesting one, because that's where we process. It's not the primary receiver, as many people think, of information. It's not. The primary receiver is here. It's the heart. So the heart receives first, passes it on to this brain, and then the brain sends messages and signals to this physical body that then experience something, or whatever it's experiencing, happiness or whatever. And then it gets back to the brain, and the brain says, ah, this was fun, or oh man, this was horrible, whatever it's then saying. That is not what you can say the reality of what was happening. It is what we then experience of that reality, what comes in.
Thank you.
Yeah? So, you're welcome.